thing, the number one thing that you want your team to accomplish during this final stretch before the playoffs?
I feel that from January on, really after the Montreal game, after the Christmas break, that we got to be really consistent in style of play. So cementing that style of play, I think we can speed parts of our offensive game up. We'd like to see that a little bit as an add-on to, kind of the finishing touches on the game that our team plays. It is different than last year. We have changed, not so much systems, but mindset on how we move together. Our analytics from that time on have been very strong. So we want to continue to push hard. Almost that will be the core for us to continue to play the way we have in the last month and be able to push hard with that now.
With the amount of buzz that this Four Nations tournament has kind of caused around hockey, I mean, how much of it do you think is going to carry over into these games coming out of the breaks? I think that's something interesting to have.
Yeah, we'll watch for that, right? So it's an interesting thing. I had heard listening to the broadcast that Washington might be the only team that didn't have a guy, and they're sitting in first place. But we have the biggest number. I think all of them, with the exception of Matthew, will come back feeling really good about where they're at in their performance and be able to apply that to the game. We think we'll get a bounce from these guys.
And just a little bit, what do you know now about Matthew?
So he won't play tonight, and he's going to get looked at Sunday and Monday. We've got a bunch of people to get their hands on him, and then we'll have a real clear plan after that.
But any idea of the severity of it? Or?
No, that's tomorrow and Monday. So we just let it settle down for a few days, kind of ice and all that stuff, and then they'll get looked at.
And the other two that weren't out there today, everybody in?
Yeah, all good. So we optioned out. Evan Rodriguez didn't skate, but he'd been on the ice for 2 days. We just felt, and we may do the same tomorrow, just because we will go 6 straight days on the ice for some of those guys in small groups. They got a pretty good tug when you only have 11 guys on the ice. There's not a lot of rest in between reps. Everybody's good. Bennett and Reinhart are in.
Coach, down this final stretch, you've got teams that are going to be fighting to get into the playoffs. Teams that are obviously fighting for where they are in the standings.
Right.
Do games tighten up even
Yes.
more? Where do you see the complexion of games in this final stretch really change?
There's 2 big pushes. There's a small one that happens in November, and it's usually the teams that didn't get off to the start they wanted, and panic sets in a little earlier there. Then you have the Christmas break, but really it's after the All-Star break or the Four Nations break now, where the push comes. This is a little different this year because we have almost 15 teams in the East that are still right there, and it changes the way the games will be harder and more intense, but they'll also be more consistent. So a lot of years you get 4 or 5 teams that are already out of it. They would say they're playing for next year, but there's no tension in the risk they put into the game. They're out there to skate, have fun, play hard for sure, but make plays and score goals. And if they lose the game, it's not the end of the world. So don't worry about that cross-ice pass through 5 sticks and it's in the back of the net and all great play, except if that pass gets knocked down and goes the other way and it costs you the playoffs, an opportunity to play in the playoffs. So you just don't make that play. So I think in the East especially, we will play very consistent playoff-like games right away. There's those teams that are 5 and 6 points out need the next 2 weeks. They can't be 8 or 10 out, right? Or their season's in real trouble. So it's going to be a heavy, hard push right from the start.
I mean, with Matthew Tkachuk out of the lineup, it gives Mackie Samoskevich to become a pretty big focal point of the top 6. I mean, how big of an opportunity is that for him this early in his career?
I think with Matthew in, it would be equally as big. Matthew's, in terms of us winning hockey games, he will be like all those. We're going to need a little more from everybody. We're going to need everybody to be right and at their best. It'll be he and Sam Bennett have something going on for sure. I'm going to leave him on the left side with the idea that when Matthew comes back, that he has a bunch of reps on the left side and he gets real comfortable over there. If it's just not working, it may have nothing to do with Matthew or Mackie. It may have to do, I need to move some other players around. He could come back to the right, but we'll start him on the left.
I mean, with how good he's been and how good Jesper Boqvist has been, do you feel comfortable with this forward group as it is?
Yeah, I'm fine with where we're at up front.
Coach, where does this break to for the goaltending situation?
Our goaltending situation, like Robbie Tallis had the rotation for the goaltenders done in August, what he thought would happen, and we've been almost right on that, other than a baby, and we missed some games. So we're right at the number that we had hoped we would be at, and the rest of the games are completely scheduled out. There's always things that you're not aware of, the things that you can't anticipate, that you may move some games around, but our numbers are going to be right on what we'd hoped they'd be.
And who gets the next one?
Sergei goes tonight.
You looking at splitting things up a little bit? I mean, I don't know what your schedule is goalie wise. I know you've got 4 or 5 back-to-backs left. But,
5, yeah.
the way that Sergei played in the playoffs 2 years ago, where he had some rest going in, and forced
Right.
rest, but rest nonetheless. Does that kind of change how you guys look at things? I mean, as far as
I mean, I think
Not giving him like 5 days off in a row, but a couple here and there leading in.
yeah, that's already built into how we've got 5 sets of back-to-backs. We play 9 games in 15 days in April. I don't know if that's been done before, and 3 of those are on back-to-backs. So both goaltenders are going to play a whole bunch down the stretch. You know, that kind of 50-30 number is going to be pretty close to where we get to on this. So both guys will have lots of action going into the playoffs, and hopefully enough rest as well.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, guys.
Thanks,